Sing Sing stars Coleman Domingo as Divine G, and he is part of the RTA at his prison, which basically means it's a way for prisoners to put on theatrical productions. And so he's like one of the leaders in this club. He acts, he directs, he writes, he does a lot of things. He's a very smart guy. He's viewed as a leader among this RTA group that he has. And it's all about him and the fellow cast of characters trying to just dig deep inside themselves, learn more about themselves through acting as a medium, and it follows their lives in prison. First and foremost, Coleman Domingo at the center of this movie is fantastic. Last year, he was nominated for an Academy Award for Rustin, and I think he's also going to be nominated and potentially win this year for this movie. Coleman Domingo is really great casting for this movie. I'm not actually sure totally about Coleman Domingo's like training as an actor, but he seems like a very Shakespearean, like classically trained type actor, or at least it comes across that way in this movie. And obviously, with the subject matter, that's a perfect fit. He's a very good like talker when he acts. I think different actors are known for different things, and some people may be known for like really being subtle with how they act with their face. I think Coleman Domingo's great at that, but particularly with how he delivers his lines with authority, um, and in the more tender moments, he's still like a really big presence. He's just very present on the screen throughout, and I think for this character, perfect casting. There are a lot of really good performances surrounding him. I think most notably is by Clarence Macklin, who plays another prisoner who's new to the RTA club. And he's at first, you can tell he's like trying to put on this tough guy face, but he's like completely unwilling to like participate really in a lot of these like goofy exercises that they do. And while the exercises are goofy, they say that it really gets to the heart of like what they're trying to do and bring this character out of him. And it often requires looking inwardly at yourself and expressing yourself. And he has a hard time expressing himself. It looks like he really hasn't done that much. So his relationship with the main character, I think, is really the most important relationship in this movie, and how their friendship evolves over time. One of the big themes in Sing Sing is really has to do with like men, particularly because this is an all men's prison. There's very few female characters in this movie. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing for this specific movie. It's how men struggle to express themselves in the world that they grow up in. A lot of times their parents or the environments that they grow up in teach men like showing emotion is weakness. And I think this movie tries to break down some of those barriers, and I thought that was really profound. And I think they executed that really well, especially with Clarence Macklin's character, that supporting character I was talking about. But also with the main character, Coleman Domingo, also undergoes his own story arc in that way, where you think he's not the one that's going to have to go through that change. You think it's going to be the other guy, but the movie kind of twists that around in a really meaningful way. So, that theme I think was really polished. It was really tight, and I think that it was set up and brought to completion really well. One of the main themes in this was also the injustice in the prison system, and that theme didn't seem like it was fully fleshed out to me. I feel like they brought it up a couple times, but I feel like there wasn't a lot of detail behind it. There wasn't a lot of context, especially for people who aren't like super familiar with the prison system. I don't think that those people would really like. I think a lot of it would just go over their heads. Not that I think that you should beat messaging over the head, but if people are missing context, it can be kind of hard to get your point across. So that's a little conflicting there with how that theme came up and was brought together. But overall, I think the themes in this movie pretty solid. I will say that I think Sing Sing has some plot problems. There are things that happen in the movie that I feel like are not set up fully or set up at all. I think large periods of time will pass in just a quick cut, quick scene change, and I don't think that that's necessarily effective filmmaking. I understand that you don't need to show everything. You can imply stuff with how you make the film, but there are some times where it's like setting up this really big moment. I can't really spoil anything, but like they're setting up this one character to have a really big moment, and like he gets all hyped up for it, and then they don't show it. It just skips to the next scene, and I'm just like, that's kind of frustrating. Or it'll skip ahead like a couple years. It's hard to tell, and just a matter of a quick cut, and you're like, well, how did we get here? You know, earlier in the movie, this kind of situation came up, and it didn't go well. So then we skip ahead, and then we don't actually see the process of how that came to be. Maybe that, I know that's super vague, and it might be kind of not very helpful for you as somebody maybe wanting to watch this movie, but I don't want to spoil it. Yeah, there are just some plot jumps around that, or just stuff that's not developed fully, that I thought was a little bit frustrating. I saw the time of the movie, and it's about an hour 45 minutes, and I don't think that's inherently wrong. I think we need more movies that are under 2 hours, but this movie was actually one that I think could have been a little bit longer. I think they could have added a couple moments where they kind of just set up some of these events that happen in the story. I don't see a big problem with that. I would have liked to seen that. The movie is directed like fine. You know, I'm not saying this is like a masterpiece or anything. Visually, I mean, it's not supposed to be some visual spectacle kind of movie, but I do think there are some interesting things with the cinematography, and overall, like, it's passable. Like, it's not something that I had like high expectations to be a visual juggernaut of a movie or anything. I think the most impactful moments are just when the camera just sits and rolls while the actors do their thing. You know, no rapid cutting or anything. I think it's a movie that lets the characters and the actors breathe in the moment, which is very good. Also, with the tone of the movie, the emotion pulled out from the movie, it's all spot on. I mean, it's a pretty well directed movie. Overall, I'm thinking for Seeing Sing, probably about a 7.5 out of 10. Just a quick summarization. Actors, great. Cast of characters, awesome. Great casting. Important messages. Some of the messages maybe not fully developed, but some of them are really well developed. Got some plot problems, screenplay problems, storytelling problems. Wish they would have set up some things more. Wish they would have paid off some other things a little bit better. But overall, I would say I would recommend seeing it. This movie is actually currently, as of late August, the front runner to win Best Picture at the Academy Awards, which I think is crazy. Like, I don't know if this movie is like really like a, when I watched it, like, I don't see like, oh, this thing is a Best Picture winner type thing. It was fun. I mean, it was heartwarming. It was a crowd pleaser, but I just don't know if it has what it takes to do it, especially when I mentioned some of the story problems. But what it does have is a really strong lead performance, and it has a strong supporting performance, and I think it's got a dialogue heavy movie that can maybe get it a screenplay win, and that could get you a Best Picture, but I still don't know if it's going to be the one to win. Especially with a movie like Dune Part 2 that came out. A lot of people are saying that Dune Part 2 doesn't really actually have a real chance to win. Right now, I disagree. I think it does. It depends on how they campaign it. But Dune Part 2 is the best movie of the year. And that seems a whole lot more like a Best Picture winner. I don't know. In the next couple months, I'm going to probably talk more about the awards picture. But Sing Sing is going to be very much in the conversation for a lot of that. Especially Coleman Domingo. I think he's probably the front runner for Best Actor. This movie could very well take Best Picture, Best Actor, the classic combo, just like Oppenheimer took last year. But we'll see. I recommend going to find Sing Sing. I think a lot of y'all will really love it. It's not a perfect movie, but I think it's going to be something that a lot of people are going to watch and cry. It's going to have a big impact on them, especially men. Fellas, get out to go see this movie. I hope after you watch it, you'll be like, I got to talk to the boys and let some stuff out, because that'd be great, because that's kind of how I feel. Anyway, love you guys. See you soon.